No sport is more dependent upon strength of schedule than college football. The California-sized earthquake that began breaking the Pac-12 away from the mainland has led to the Big Ten inheriting one team that could win the national championship, another top 20 team per the Power Ranks preseason numbers, and two more that could go bowling. But will this new quartet be able to join this league and make an immediate impact? The same league that's home to the defending champs. Let's analyze the new faces of the Big Ten Conference. Welcome to the Football Analytics Show podcast. I'm Egros as part of our preview of the upcoming football season. Dillon Gabriel has more frequent flyer miles than an airline pilot. The eventual sixth-year senior began his career at Central Florida, transferred to Oklahoma, and then transferred again this offseason to Oregon. But in every full season when healthy, Gabriel has displayed flashes of excellence. In his first season at UCF, Gabriel finished 22nd in total passing EPA per collegefootballdata.com. In the COVID-shortened season, he was 7th. 2 years later with the Sooners, he was 3rd, trailing only Bo Nix and Heisman Trophy winner Jaden Daniels. Gabriel was also 5th among quarterbacks in total EPA on rushing plays. Though it is Gabriel's first year with the Ducks and under offensive coordinator Will Stein's scheme, a lot of things are going in his favor. First, Oregon has 6 returning offensive starters, including receiver Tez Johnson, who amassed more than 1,100 receiving yards a season ago. Second, Oregon loves to call play-action passing, and Gabriel is used to it. Last year, more than 50% of his dropbacks led to play-action, the third highest rate among qualifying quarterbacks per PFF. Finally, Stein's scheme tries to keep passes short and conservative, while letting the receivers and blockers do much of the work downfield, something Gabriel is also comfortable doing. Last year, Gabriel ranked 9th nationally in screen pass rate. Bo Nix, last year's Oregon starting gunslinger, ranked 10th. Had Oregon been able to beat Washington just once in 2023, they might have made the college football playoff. But this season, the schedule is even more top-heavy, with home games against the Huskies and Ohio State Buckeyes, but also a November 2nd showdown at Michigan. The defense may not have a lot of publicity, but the reinforcements may be stout. Oregon has mastered the transfer portal and has had stellar recruiting classes, including its most recent one, per 24/7 Sports, coming in 3rd nationally. The Ducks do have the 3rd shortest odds of winning the title at many places, largely because it is reasonable to expect these Ducks to make the 12-team playoff. They also have the 2nd shortest odds to win the Big Ten at roughly 2-1, just behind Ohio State with a returning quarterback and 8 returning defensive starters. There may not be much of an edge right now taking Oregon. Also, Gabriel is the preseason favorite to win the Heisman, but as I've said many times, do not take the favorite. Too many things can happen in this market, and the element of surprise carries weight later in the year. Next, a look at the defending national runners-up. If you had to categorize the 2023 Washington Huskies only one way, were they lucky or were they good? UW came in 12th nationally, averaging 462 yards of total offense per game, but 99th defensively, allowing more than 400 yards per contest. Washington also had 8 victories decided by 1 possession, including the Pac-12 title game and the Sugar Bowl. Even if you only look at the regular season, no team enjoyed more close wins. However, individual talent and coaches got a lot of respect outside of Seattle. 3 Huskies were taken in the first round of the NFL draft, including quarterback Michael Penix Jr. and receiver Romeo Dunze, and 4 more were selected in rounds 2 and 3. Head coach Kalen DeBoer was hired away by Alabama to replace Nick Saban. Offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb is now with the Seattle Seahawks in the same role. And the program's defensive coordinators have also moved on, including Chuck Morrell, who joined DeBoer in Tuscaloosa. Okay, suppose you believe Washington was more good than lucky. There's no doubting teams tend to regress with the Huskies' results, and they really struggle when losing the production they once did. 24/7 Sports has UW without a single returning offensive starter, and just 3 on the other side of the ball. It's a brand new coaching staff, led by Jed Fish, and a new offensive system, going from the air raid to potentially something more balanced with a horizontally stretched running game that mirrors what the Rams and 49ers do, but for the college ranks. Replacing Penix is Mississippi State transfer Will Rogers. 2021 was his most successful campaign, completing nearly 74% of his throws for more than 4,700 yards. That year, he was tied for the second most intermediate pass attempts of 10 to 19 air yards, perhaps a clue of the type of offense Washington will run. Rodgers will have Cal transfer Jeremiah Hunter, who led the Golden Bears in receiving each of the last 2 years. But with Washington playing in the title game and the head coach leaving soon after, Washington may be thin at key spots. There's also that schedule. Good grief, that schedule. Against Michigan, at Iowa, against USC, at Penn State, and at Oregon. Washington is 15-1 to make the playoff on FanDuel at last check. Their win total is at 6.5, slightly juiced to the under. The Power Rank has Washington 38th in its member preseason rankings, which combine market win totals and data-driven methods. And while the schedule is treacherous, there may be value in the over. Sweeping inferior opponents and snagging at least an upset or two gets Washington to 7 wins. Everyone knows it'll be a rebuild, but it could be an expedient one. Finally, let's head down south to Los Angeles. USC head coach Lincoln Riley has produced 3 Heisman Trophy winners, all of whom were drafted first overall in the NFL. Could Miller Moss be number 4? He's already a reasonable 40-1 at some spots to win the Heisman because of the infrastructure around him, but also in significantly limited time last season put together a top 35 PFF offensive grade. The Holiday Bowl provided the 4-star recruit a spotlight, winning MVP with a 23-of-33, 372-yard, 6-touchdown performance. This season, Moss will be joined by 3 returning offensive starters, notably offensive lineman Jonah Monheim. The receiving core is young, but Zachariah Branch will be one of the faster targets in college football. Offensive expectations should be reasonable, but the bigger question is if the defense can do its share. Last year, per CFB-graphs.com, in terms of total defensive EPA, USC ranked outside the top 100 nationally. Though they faced stellar quarterbacks for much of the season, finishing outside the top 100 is alarming. It's why the Trojans brought in defensive coordinator D'Anton Lynn to the fold, who was at UCLA a season ago, making that defense one of the better ones in America, and before that, had 9 years of NFL experience, notably as the safeties coach with the Baltimore Ravens. USC returns nearly all of its defensive starters, so it's safe to expect a more complete team effort. The schedule begins with a matchup against LSU in Las Vegas, plus contests at Michigan, against Penn State, against Nebraska, and against Notre Dame. USC's win total is set at 7.5, juiced to the under, in part because of this tough slate. Miller Moss might have to be a Heisman contender to beat the aforementioned powerhouses. The power rank does have USC 19th in the member preseason rankings, meaning bettors really don't believe there's any huge adjustment for this team. Lincoln Riley has never had an anemic offense, even when he was an offensive coordinator, so either bet the under 7.5 wins because Moss isn't ready to be a Heisman contender, or take a longer shot, like USC to make the playoffs, at plus 440 on FanDuel. Finally, there's UCLA. They're also in Los Angeles. Head coach Chip Kelly is gone. Deshaun Foster, without any head coaching experience, is in. There shouldn't be the quarterback upheaval we saw last year. Ethan Garbers is the guy. He's a caretaker of the football with one of the lower average depths of target last season at 7.7 yards. But they've kept their top 3 receivers and added Notre Dame transfer Rico Flores. They also now have offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy, who did help turning Patrick Mahomes into Patrick Mahomes. However, defensively, they lost their coordinator and a lot of talent, so there are a plethora of unknowns just about everywhere. The scheduling gods also didn't do the Bruins many favors. They are at LSU. They host Oregon, who's coming off of a bye. They're at Penn State, at Nebraska, against Iowa, at Washington, and, of course, get the Trojans. The win total at FanDuel is set at 4.5, though significantly juiced to the over. 5 wins should be a reasonable expectation, even if the price is a little steep. So we began this episode asking how these new faces would handle joining the Big Ten. While this quartet was largely responsible for the following, if you go by simple rating system, the Pac-12 was the second toughest conference last season. They enjoyed enormous success before being practically demolished. The Big Ten came third, but had been rated the top conference in college football recently. The challenges for Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA may be just as, if not tougher than in 2023, but with this 12-team playoff, there's a lot more margin for error. The Football Analytics Show is brought to you by the Power Rank Sports Betting Newsletter. Looking for some action on any given weekend? Well, this is the free service for you, as 5 Nuggets Saturday gives Ed Fang's curated list of tips and analytics. This includes insights from people like me, Edward Egros. To sign up for free, go to thepowerrank.com. That is Ed Fang's site for better driven sports betting information. Once again, that's thepowerrank.com. Thanks again for listening to this installment of the Football Analytics Show. This is Edward Egros. Please follow me on Twitter and Instagram for my latest insights @EdWithSports. That's @EdWithSports. Take care, everybody.